Hey everyone, it's Stewart, Principal Broker with eXp Realty, and today's topic is why are lumber prices so high? Stay tuned. So today's topic is why are lumber prices so high? Lumber prices have gone up 377% from 1 year ago today. And everybody's kind of like, whoa, what is happening out there? And I want to break it down for you. I have a client who's in the lumber industry. I've talked to a lot of people who know their stuff in the lumber industry. I want to help understand for all of us who may not, know about why they're, going up so vastly high in the last year, like what's causing this. So let's kind of talk about the lumber industry from a fundamental point of view. What a lot of people don't know is that the lumber industry is a just-in-time type of product. In the world of marketing and business, that means that they go out and cut the lumber and they sell it right away to whoever orders it. There's no warehousing, there's no holding it in excess. It literally is cut and sold, and mills operate that way. That's how they've actually always operated. Well, before COVID hit, we had a housing shortage here in North America. We were still needing more housing, especially here in Portland. Portland has gone years really with not a lot of new construction happening to keep up with the demand. And then we have COVID, which, as we all know, the unnatural thing we thought would happen happened. And in addition to that, it created a housing boom. So let's talk about the mills. So because they're just in time production, the mills during COVID, guess what they did? People went home. They shut the mills down. They slowed the mills down. The government's paying for people to stay at home for a while to get through this. And what was already not in production enough now got down to a screeching halt. In addition to that, 50% of the US lumber comes from, guess where? Canada. Well, we have borders between the US and Canada. And during COVID, borders were harder to get through unless you were quarantining and going through some pretty, tough rigmarole. So here we have this pandemic. People are going home. They're not working. They're not increasing production. We've got borders closing down, and all of a sudden a housing boom hits. So now we're already in dire need of lumber, and we've got a housing boom happening and not enough people working in the timber business. And all of a sudden the prices are starting to creep up over the last 12 months. And when you look at the prices compared to a year ago, let me give you some perspective. If you were to have built a 200 square foot deck with lumber a year ago, it would have cost you around $936. That same 200 square feet of lumber is going to run you just shy of $4,000 right now, but it could have gone up since I made this video, who knows? But the reality is that is affecting everything. In addition to that, we've had supply chain problems. So what a lot of people don't realize is that it's not just lumber, because I've had a lot of people say, well, I drive by the lumber yards and I see stacks of it not moving. So what's up with that? You're right. There are stacks of lumber. We need timber trusses and framing to put houses up. But you know what you also need? You need OSB board. And how do you make OSB board? Resin. And what happened to our largest distributor manufacturer of resin in the country? Also in Texas, what happened to them this year? They had a monster-sized winter storm that shut down Texas, who's never used to these kind of winter storms. And all of a sudden, the supply chain got backed up with that. In fact, they're just starting to come back on board. So OSB board, which is kind of like your floors, your walls, your ceilings, all the innards of a house in building, it's almost next to impossible to find it. And when you find it, it's at extraordinary prices. So it's not just the lumber itself to build the frames, it's what's to build the house. You can't build a house without OSB board. In fact, in talking to one of my clients not that long ago, who is a lumber trader, he says that he's concerned we run out of OSB board because of all these elements, kind of what we're talking about. So we have this. And then in addition to that, what a lot of people don't realize is other types of materials and supply chains are getting affected. We've had shipping costs out of China, containers coming forward and, doubling the cost while they're in the ocean, bringing, the container of supplies to us, quadrupling. We've had the Suez Canal issues. I mean, supply chains are just a mess. I'm actually remodeling a bathroom right now, and I can tell you that some of the supplies we have had, we noticed that they weren't currently available. So in general, supply chains have been affected. Shipping costs have gone up. You know, mills are not able to keep up with the demand. And a lot of people say, well, why don't they just increase production? Why don't they just hire a bunch of people, you know, increase warehouses or whatever? So let's talk about that, because that's what everybody's pushing for. Well, the reality is this: if you're in the lumber business and you're getting, you know, extraordinarily high prices for your lumber, and it would cost you money in terms of debt to increase your production, hire more people, even take on warehouse space. Well, what happens if this thing doesn't, you know, continue at this level of production for some time? Now you're stuck with the bill, the production, or whatnot. In addition to that, in talking to my lumber trader friend, he says that they've tried to hire people in mills and they're having a heck of a time getting people to go work at the mills to help increase production. So if you're a lumber person and you're running a mill, you don't care that the demand is 15 and your only output is 10. You're just going to trade it at whatever skyrocketed, you know, prices are. You're not going to increase your debt load. You're not going to try to increase your production. It doesn't really affect you other than you're getting premium dollar for lumber. And if you were to warehouse that lumber, guess what happens to the cost of the lumber you're buying? It's going to go up because the cost of warehousing lumber is not free. There's a cost to that too. So we're in this pickle, if you will, with just the supply chain and trying to keep up with the demand. And by the way, if you're a homeowner and you have been watching what's happening out here in the market, you are either remodeling your house because you're like, well, I'm in this thing all the time. I've had to work from home. I'm not going out as much. So you're doing a lot more projects at home. Or you're looking at buying a house because interest rates are low and you don't like where you're at and you're trying to make a move. And that's basically what is happening in the housing boom. The housing boom has caused everybody to either remodel or move. And so here you have this huge housing boom, high demand for products, you know, to remodel your house, and you need all this stuff out in the environment. So it's kind of the perfect storm. That's why we're seeing the lumber prices be astronomical. So here's my tips for this. If you don't have to remodel, you know, if you are planning on building a deck this year, you didn't have a deck a year ago, don't worry about it. Like, wait this thing out, wait for lumber prices to go down, or consider alternatives. You know, composite decks, I highly recommend them over wood decks anyway. Do updates and improvements that maybe don't call for some of these, you know, products that are having trouble either in the supply chain or the cost of them. Look for alternatives to improve your house. I will say painting is one of those areas where you can do a lot of improvements. And yet I went to the paint store recently to just get some samples. They weren't doing samples because of what was going on from the Texas storm. They were forcing me to buy the gallons. So you will find when you get out there and start going to different suppliers to do different things, you're going to run into those kind of things, but that doesn't mean you can't do anything to your house or that it's not cost effective. I'm always telling people, improve your house while you're living there. Just continue to be in constant state of improvement if you plan on being there for a period of time. But just be aware that when you're out there and you're, you know, trying to find, you know, certain things for your house, they may not be readily available. Also, plumbing. Plumbing is made from resin. So a lot of people have been struggling to get some of the plumbing products that they needed for their projects. And this all affects construction, right? At the end of the day, when I talk to people about buying new construction, what you're going to find is that builders are not quoting prices until they get close to breaking ground, because they don't know what the cost of their building materials are going to be till right before they break ground. New construction, by the way, is a whole new animal these days. It's not like you go and say, okay, I want to spend, you know, $600,000 on new construction. You will show up to a new construction site and you will put your name in a lottery to get involved, because the prices have just skyrocketed in that arena too, because of what's happening out here in the supply chain. So hopefully this breaks it down a little bit for you guys. I try to be quick and dirty about this, not get too granular, so this video is not too long, but just know the background here, who knows how much that could be worth of timber, but lumber, wood, all of that stuff, it's at its highest right now. And there is a reason for that. So hope this makes a little bit more sense in why the lumber prices are so high, and we'll keep you posted on what's happening as we go.